New national anthem lyrics and a revamped look for currency, Buckingham Palace announced the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral Castle in Scotland on Thursday. While the news was shocking at first, her death commenced Operation London Bridge, which began a series of events. Some of which you'd expect. The question is, what'll happen to stamps, coins, banknotes, and passports? You can be ready to expect quite a few changes. First off, after a change in monarch, nothing's gonna be the same. The face of Queen Elizabeth is easily one of the most recognizable in the world. In fact, as the head of the Commonwealth, her profile image is currently featured on the coin and banknotes, not just in the UK, but also in at least 20 other countries around the world. Right now, there are 29 billion coins and 4.7 billion banknotes in circulation with the Queen's portrait. Right after the announcement of the monarch's death, it wasn't long until the Bank of England, which also happens to be the central bank of the United Kingdom, announces their plans for the existing banknotes. Yup, that's exactly the same ones we've seen for years with the picture of the Queen. The recent statement said, as the first monarch to feature on Bank of England banknotes, the Queen's iconic portraits are synonymous with some of the most important work we do. Adding to that, at least for now until the period of mourning, the current banknotes with the image of the Queen will continue to be legal tender. At the same time, we're expecting another announcement about the existing Bank of England notes after the mourning. And talking about the £1 note, it featured the Queen's portrait and was issued by the bank in 1960, so it's been around for a pretty long time. In fact, the Queen even appears on the bills in Canada, coins in New Zealand, and money from the East Caribbean Central Bank. So are they all gonna charge their currency moving forward? What's more, the British currency isn't the only thing changing. Now, even if we're gonna change everything, replacing banknotes entirely could take 2 years at the very least, while coins might take even longer. Plus, other than currency, you can also expect the stamps to change. They've got the picture of the Queen right now, but that's soon going to be replaced by the new monarch, King Charles III. At the same time, there are over 100,000 Royal Mail post boxes, and they've all got Queen Elizabeth Royal Cypher ERII, but that's probably going to stay the same. Now, official changes aren't confirmed yet, but traditionally, the accession of a new monarch usually results in a rollout of new banknotes, coins, and stamps, so we're expecting the same now, where the Queen's portraits will be replaced with King Charles. In fact, other nations with ties to the British monarchy are also set to make similar changes in the aftermath of her death, which brought an end to her reign of 7 decades. Either way, right now, the UK is in a 10-day mourning period, so whatever changes are on the way are going to happen after the 10 days are over. Coming up, here's what's going to happen to currency. The Queen served as the sovereign leader of 15 nations, which included New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. In fact, she was even the head of the Commonwealth of over 50 nations. As for Canada, a former British colony, they're not going to change their coins or the $20 banknotes currently in circulation. According to the Bank of Canada, the current polymer $20 banknotes are going to be around for the next few years. Although it's still up to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau if he wants the new currency to feature the portrait of King Charles. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, also a former British colony, released a statement saying they're definitely going to be replacing Queen Elizabeth's face with the new king on its coin and $20 banknotes, but this change isn't going to happen only after all the existing coins and banknotes featuring the Queen are exhausted. And that's because they don't plan on destroying any existing stock or shortening the life of their banknotes, only because they show the Queen. It's definitely poor environmental practice at the very least. And the Reserve Bank of Australia also has a similar plan. In a recent statement, they said they're going to be keeping it 5 Australian dollar banknotes featuring the Queen's portrait for the next few years. As for the coins, you're going to be seeing new ones with a new portrait of the King as early as next year, which is just a few months away. Following up, the Queen's portraits have graced the currencies of 33 different countries. That's honestly more than any other individual, and it makes sense because she was the world's longest reigning monarch. Canada was the first country to use the British monarch's image on their currency when it put the 9-year-old princess on the $20 banknotes back in 1935, and it wasn't long until Britain followed in 1960. Over time, we've seen 26 different portraits of Elizabeth in the UK, and it's currently the former colonies along with dominions and territories. In fact, these portraits usually feature the Queen in formal attire wearing a crown. Although the currencies of Canada and Australia feature her in a plain dress and pearls, some countries even updated their banknotes over the years to reflect her age, which meant reprinting new money. Meanwhile, others opted to keep the classic older images of her. On coins, you're always going to see the Queen's profile facing to the right during her reign, but the new King's profile is expected to face the left, keeping it in line with a tradition that dates all the way back to the 1600s. It involves alternating the direction of each monarch's head on the coinage between their reigns. Up next, Next, here's what's going to happen to stamps. Now, British stamps have a pretty long history of featuring the monarchy. In fact, the world's first adhesive postage stamp was launched in the UK in 1840 with an image of Queen Victoria, and that stamp was so popular it even introduced the penny post, in which mail could be sent across the British Empire for just a penny. Fast forward to over 100 years later, in 1966, Queen Elizabeth's image was first used as an elaborate postage stamp that has now been printed over 220 billion times and is over 130 different colors. And a day after her demise, Royal Mail confirmed that unused stamps are going to stay valid for the use until the end of 2023 because there are enough stocks to fulfill the anticipated demand. We're still expecting further announcements at the right time after Royal Mail consultants with Buckingham Palace. As for now, all the existing post boxes that feature the Queen's insignia or cipher are going to stay the same. In fact, you can find hundreds of bright red pillar boxes along the UK's roadsides, many of which even carries the letters E and R for Elizabeth II and Regina, which is the Latin word for Queen. Coming up, the revamped national anthem. God save our gracious Queen. Long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. There's no doubt that crowds have chanted these words at sporting events and celebrations since 1952, and for most people, it's the only version of the national anthem that they've ever known. But it's time for the word Queen to be substituted for the word King of Sir Charles. In fact, it's been a tradition for the anthem ever since it was first publicly performed back in London in 1745, and the version hasn't been used since 1952 when the Queen's father, George VI, died. On September 9th, crowds outside Buckingham Palace sang God Save the King while being greeted by King Charles. Adding to that, Britain's newly installed Prime Minister Liz Truss ended her speech on Thursday by saying God Save the King as a mark of respect to the new monarch. Last but not least, the remarkable 7-decade legacy of Britain's longest-serving monarch. It was true that Queen Elizabeth ruled with heart and devotion and will be dearly missed by the public. She died at age 96 on September 8th in the afternoon, after which Buckingham Palace announced a statement saying she passed peacefully at Balmoral. Adding to that, the King and Queen consort were to remain at Balmoral that evening and return to London the next day. Her death followed her husband of 73 years, Prince Philip, who died at age 99 in June of 2021. After her death, she is succeeded immediately by her eldest son, King Charles, who is now the monarch. The king referred to the devastating news as a moment of great sadness, saying that his family was mourning the death of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. And as the UK grieves for the loss of its longest-serving monarch, behind closed doors, Operation London Bridge is underway. In fact, officials have sprung into action and triggered a meticulously planned strategy for the transition of a new ruler. With a lot of changes underway, the transition at the end of the 7-decade reign is going to be difficult. That's a wrap for this video. How do you feel about the change in UK currency and stamps? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.